Thank you for auditing Professor Sky's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's very excited to be reviewing the new album by Sarah Mary Chadwick, Me and Ennui Are Friends, Baby. Now listen, I've gotten a lot of requests to review the album by Hayley Williams, which I am going to be reviewing probably next. And I know that if I review that, I will probably get 10 times more views than I would for this video. But part of the reason I do this channel is that it has given me the opportunity to discover music I would have never discovered if I wasn't paying so much attention. And last year's album, Please Daddy by Sarah Mary Chadwick is one of my two favorite albums from last year. And definitely it was the album which, if you've never heard it, I would suggest you go out and listen to it and buy it right now. But it's kind of funny because I'm intentionally putting these two together, the Hayley Williams album and the Sarah Mary Chadwick. I'm recording them back to back because in both cases we have a very stirring album made by a woman who is completely alone, recording completely by herself, about the loss of love, about encroaching middle age, and about the sort of difficulties of living an emotionally honest life or the attempt of an emotionally honest life. So I don't know. I think this is, hopefully I will have sent you over here from that video to here, because I think both these albums work quite well. Of course, one's on the pop spectrum, worldwide known, and I'll get 1,000 views on that, and I'll probably get 100 views on this. But together, I think we have a nice snapshot of some things that are happening in music right now. Now, this album, Me and Ennui, is the third part of a cycle. The three parts. The first one is called The Queen Who Stole the Sky. The second is Please Daddy, and then this one, Me and Ennui. For the sake of brevity and clarity, I'm just going to shorten them to Queen, Daddy, and Ennui. And if I ever start a hyper pop group, that will be my alter ego, Queen, Daddy, Ennui. I think it works pretty well for me. And so when we think about these three albums and how do they all fit together, you know, Queen, I missed that album, and I've caught up with it recently. Please Daddy, one of the best albums of last year, and then this one. What's interesting is the musical nature of the three are all very distinct. The Queen is with a full organ, like a church organ, and it's just her and the church organ. It's fascinating the way it sounds. Please Daddy is a full band, and this album, Me and Ennui, is just her and a piano. Queen is sort of like a kind of novelty in that way, like novel to play on an organ, and then we have the complexity of the band, and then we have the simplicity of just the piano. But the thing that unites all of them is her voice, her absolutely amazing voice, which, as I said in my Please Daddy video, does what I like the most that voices can do, be vulnerable and strong at the same time. I've read a lot of comparisons to Neil Young, and I think those are earned. And I don't think they're cheap. I think that is... Okay, half the time when you compare somebody to Neil Young or Bob Dylan, it's a shorthand for they can't sing. Sarah Mary Chadwick can sing, but she is able to do that thing that very few singers can do. I mean, Bob Dylan can't do it. Sorry, Bob Dylan fans. But things that like Neil Young can do of being vulnerable, shaky, and insanely strong. Thematically, these three albums are interesting because they are a very sort of unsatisfying... Well, I mean, it's satisfying, but it's sort of a tragic arc. It feels to me like the first one is recovering from great trauma. The second album is sort of wavering in that trauma. And then this album is just complete collapse. This is a collapsed, broken person sharing their brokenness with you. But as you will see, it's done in such a way that it's very important to listen to and very good. I'm going to read you the description from Bandcamp of this album, okay? This is like her official press release, okay? This is how they describe it, and they do a better job than I could, even though it's a press release. Just weeks before the Ennui recordings of 2019, Chadwick endured the breakup of a long-term relationship and attempted her own life. Okay, breakup, suicide. These events followed the deaths of her father and a close friend. Okay, two major deaths. And it's from this weighty internal mire that Chadwick emerges throughout the trilogy. Imaginably, the result is staggeringly abject. This is very well written. I hope she wrote it. Or maybe she didn't. I hope she at least used that term because staggeringly abject is a good description of how she presents herself. She does it without ever feeling that she's in that self-pity mode. So if you can project abjection, without self-pity, you have achieved something that very few people are capable of doing. I actually sort of think a little bit of maybe some French modernist writers, who were able to do this in a certain way to sort of depict life at a very low point without it ever being, oh, poor me. She depicts herself as a woman completely lost, in her words, her sicknesses, right? Her multiple sicknesses. It seems to be depression, constantly falling for the wrong kind of man, falling for sort of man babies, falling for people who need her help, broken people who she tries to fix, which is her form of brokenness. And she's constantly needing her mother's love, not getting it. Constantly needing her father's love, not getting it. Constantly needing her lover's love, not getting it. Constantly needing God's love. Not sure if she's getting it. God appears to be a maybe in the love category. But the main thing here is the love of herself, which she very clearly needs and very clearly does not have. And again, for an album to very clearly depict, without sarcasm, without maudlin, somebody who really has a hard time loving themselves, who calls herself throughout the album not a person and nothing. You feel so much for her that I just wanted to just crawl through my headphones. I just, you want to help her, you want to talk to her, not even necessarily help her, but talk to her about the ways that she could get help. You need to find a good therapist, one who's good at validating, and you need a secure, loving relationship. If you could just do those two things, you'd be all set. Of course, it's a parasocial relationship. I don't know her, she doesn't know me, and those kinds of things never work. But that's how direct these things feel, where you just really, really, really want to help this person who is talking to you so frankly and whose pain you feel in such a real and raw way. When I say this album is raw, it is raw. Let me show you the cover of the album to give you an idea of how raw it is. You see here a picture of her in cut-off shorts with her shirt pulled out underneath and the signs of pubic hair through the shorts. This is so good. I mean, most of her album covers that I've seen, or many of them, are all made by her. She's an artist. She does a lot of art. She even sells art on Bandcamp. I bought the special edition of this album that has hand-painted paintings by her, which is very cool. But her art is very, very pornographic, very, very unsettling. Like disgustingly ugly people engaged in very graphic, unclear pornographic group sex acts. Like that's her thing, right? And that's one kind of uncomfortable. This kind of uncomfortable of this album cover is different. This is a different kind of album cover. And I don't know if this is supposed to be, a reference to Courbet's Origin of the World, the painting that's in Musée d'Orsay in France. I don't think so, although it could be, because that's a lot about motherhood as well. But I think this is just an intentionally unflattering photo that's supposed to make you uncomfortable with how close you are to her, which is how the whole album is. You are uncomfortably close to her. It reminds me of what my kids do when they take pictures of each other. They intentionally will zoom up if they have a bad face, and they'll cut it out, and they'll try to do anything they can to make each other tease each other with a bad photo or a bad zoom. That's kind of what this feels like. Like it is an act of humiliation to put this as her cover. And that is what she's doing. It's interesting when you see pubic hair and it's not a sexual image, because I don't think it is. Sexuality on this album is not that present, as it sort of is in a lot of her other work that I've heard. The sexuality is never, it's pornographic without being sexy, if that makes sense. Like it's very much the depiction of an abject sexuality, an unhealthy sexuality, an unhappy sexuality, but an honest sexuality at the same time. And that's what you sort of hear here as well. And I guess the big question is, before I go through it track by track, do I recommend listening to this album? It is 40 minutes or so of just her on a piano, just these kinds of stories and these songs, and this beautiful, haunting, painful voice in your ear talking about beautifully terrible, terribly beautiful moments in her life. Do I recommend it? Well, certainly I would recommend listening to Please Daddy first. It's a much more accessible album. I prefer it just because I like hearing the whole band. But yes, I absolutely recommend listening to Ennui as well, especially in the context of this trilogy. And it is an experience. Listening to it is a whole experience of going through these emotions with somebody who knows how to put them in a way that makes you think and makes you feel. It is really sad. Okay, it is. But I want to quote somebody else who's famous for talking about sad things. Tom York of Radiohead. In an interview last year with Zane Lowe, he said the following thing. You know you're in trouble when people stop listening to sad music. Because the moment they stop listening to sad music, it's when they don't want to know anymore. They are turning themselves off. So I recommend you turn yourself on to the abject beauty of this album. Turn yourself on to this human experience that is raw and well wrought at the same time. The music is good. It is very simple. I would say there are 3 instruments here. Her voice, the piano, and the percussion is played by the creak of her piano chair. That's how much you are in this space with her. Now, I am going to give you a recommendation of a place to start with this album, okay? Right here, I suggest you listen to the track, Every Loser Needs a Mother. Great title. And a couple reasons why. One, it has a catchy chorus. The most kind of catchy part on this whole album. I'll sing it a little bit here. Every loser needs a mother. Every drunk I'll make my lover. You're not special, you're another. Way I give life to my father. She sings it a little better than I do. But it's catchy, it's in my head. I heard it once, and I was walking around with my wife, and I was telling her about this album, how good it is, because we both have, at times in our lives, tried to save people in our relationships. And if you've ever been in that situation, where you've ever tried to save somebody because they were broken, if you have a kind of savior complex, and that is your downfall as a human being, if the way you are broken is that you are trying to save broken people, this is the song for you. This is the best song for you. You need this song in your life because Sarah Mary Chadwick said it just right. I relate to this a lot. Every loser needs a daddy as well, in my experience. I have fallen for projects. I have fallen for broken people. But you only fall for broken people when you are broken. And this is the song that makes that very, very clear. It's beautiful, it's sad, and it's true. I'm just going to repeat it one more time. Every loser needs a mother. Every drunk I'll make my lover. You're not special, you're another. Way I give life to my father. Thunk! Ah! It hurts! I'm not even going to take a sip of my water. It's just so good. Such a good lyric. So simple. Especially when you listen to it in the chorus. Now that I've told you to go listen to it, that's your homework. It's catchy, and it's kind of fun, it's kind of upbeat, while also being just so unbelievably sad. So that's in the middle of the album. Let's go through the rest of the album track by track. A Mother's Love, the opening lyrics, just make it very clear. Mothers never love me, baby, that's why you should. Fill me up with mother's love, like my mama never could. She's just falling apart on wax with this strong voice and this piano. Father's always dying, baby, that's why you will. Constantly looking for father's love, mother's love, and not finding it. What I think would be interesting would be to actually use this in therapy. I think this album could be used by therapists. I think a lot of people could just bring this in and be like, here's a little shorthand of what I've been going through in my youth. I'm trying to compensate for all these insecure attachments I have to my parents, and so this has sent me on this kind of spiraling path of self-destruction and falling in love with unreliable people. You know what? Just listen to this music. Just listen to this. She even kind of makes the chorus almost like a children's song in here, and she does this from time to time, these kind of light choruses. Give me my mother's love, just give it to me. Okay, so listen, all right? I get it. You think you could write lyrics like that. I think the same thing. There's no words that she put together there that I couldn't do, but she does it, and no, you can't. You can't do it. It doesn't matter how simple those words are. These are amazing lyrics. Give my mother's love, just give it to me. tagging it with "just give it to me." The immediacy, the anger, the lack of patience that her lover or the person that she's with give her something that she cannot receive from anybody else. So also, if you've ever felt disappointed by the love that you have received from your mother, this is also the song for you. I think the number of people who have felt that way are in the high billions, okay? Just heartbreaking lyrics, one after another, looking for a feeling that some call loving, and then her just saying, I don't know what love is about. And that's the sadness. She doesn't know how to love. At Your Leisure is the next song. This is cool because she's playing low on the piano, which is pretty tricky. Like, to play in the lower register of her piano and have it sound good, she's managed to do it. I think this is just a song about being a booty call who gets ghosted. Look at me using all the young people terminology. Just a very sad person. You drag my clothes off, I give you head, parked at the lights, I tell a select few dozen friends, hear from your wife. And then interestingly, later on in the song, she talks about, with a little bit, so the piano is weird. I don't know how she manages to have the piano, like the way that she plays, she often just lets the piano notes die off while she's still singing, so it's just her voice. But she still manages to make it more sparse at points. I don't know how she does that. But she says here, is this all for a song? And if it is that wrong? A great question of suffering artists, is their suffering just for their art? And is it authentic? There is an answer to that, by the way. If you ever think that you're pretending to be crazy, but you continue to do that anyway, you're just crazy. If you ever think that you're just behaving badly for some other reason, or if you're behaving like you're out of control for some other reason, and that you're secretly in control, you're not in control. I know from experience. I remember once I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go completely crazy. I'm just going to lie on the floor, wailing, eating fried chicken naked, screaming on my floor. And the whole time I thought, I'm okay. Like, I'm just doing this for affect. I'm just doing this so that my pathetic attempts at songwriting will produce something interesting. No, I was that crazy. But I love that this question is being asked, because this is the other part of depression. The other part of being sad is you doubt yourself and you doubt the veracity of your own emotions. You don't trust yourself at all in any way. You know, after I ordered this album, I was like, am I ever going to listen to this? Am I going to be able to put myself through it? And I think I am, because it's such a consistent atmosphere and because it never feels self-pitying. I think that it will maintain its strength, and especially in conjunction with the other two albums, I just kind of keep on going. And it just seems as though she's just longing for somebody who doesn't deserve her and then ghosts her, never calls her. Okay, we'll get back to more of that later. Next track is called That Feeling Like. It's almost like a shanty, and it starts off with like, you know that feeling, and you think it's going to be a happy song, but it's just about being crushed again. You know, interesting, she says, you know that feeling when someone starts to talk about art? And then, you know that feeling when nobody talks about art, which I think is true. And part of the problem of doing this channel is that all these musicians are working super hard. And there's like thousands of musicians making great albums every year. And I review a couple hundred of them. And sometimes I'm one of the few people who reviews them. So like my stupid rambling bullcrap about my dogs and whatever it is, just whoever I am, like I'm the one who's talking about art. It sucks that more people aren't talking about art. And then sometimes when I'm talking, I'm just like a pompous dude who thinks too much of himself, you know? I will say, one of my favorite pieces of music memorabilia, after my last review, I bought the album, and she sent this along with the album. And it's really touching, because she comes across as like a very sort of aloof, you know, super tough person. But, you know, this is the truth, too. You know, like this is an artist who's really trying to make it, and she's happy that somebody is talking about her art. And people really should be talking about this art. Okay, so that feeling like, what I like here is it ends with this really nice outro, let's fuck, I'm scared. Just the escapism of sex, the theme again of kind of abject sexuality here, a sort of panicked, cornered eroticism. If there can be eroticism of being cornered by like an angry Wolverine of depression, that's her sexuality on this album and in most of her stuff that I've heard. Is that too fanciful of a of a metaphor. That's what she means by, oh no, what if someone's talking about art? Then the next track is Every Loser, which we've already discussed. And then the title track, Me and Ennui Are Friends, Baby. I think it's important that Me and Ennui Are Friends, Baby, that Baby takes the bite off of a song and an album that's about her suicide attempt. She gives the date, August 11th, 2019. Okay? If you told me someone wrote a song and they talked about their suicide, I'd be like, I wouldn't want it. I would think that's kind of cheap. But it's not. It's really good. It's really interesting. It's the details that go into it. It's this kind of diary entry with some piano notes, but she goes into it to a certain depth, which I like. I didn't call my mom because I hate that bitch. I didn't call my dad because the phone doesn't reach where he is. He's dead. But I called my friend Tim. I'd do anything for that kid. On the way to stay alive, I asked the guy his job. He said a paramedic. I just like the idea of her being taken away in an ambulance and asking the paramedic what his job is. You know, like that's this weird kind of funny, self-aware moment. An interesting thing she says, maybe I should chill out on blaming my parents. Forgivable at 25, it's not cute at 37. You know, I'm a big fan of therapy. As I say, I've been in therapy for over 10 years. It's never too late to blame your parents. It's always your parents. It's always your childhood. No matter what you do, no matter what they did, no matter what my kids do, it's always going to be about me and their mom. It's just reality. So just stop fighting against it. This is Professor Payne's psychology moment. You know when some like stupid psychologist person tells you that it has to do with your childhood, and you go, "No way, man! I'm an adult. I'm beyond that." You're a fool. You're a fool. It's always childhood. Always. Always. You just can't help it. The research is out there. It's done. No, it is still cute at 37 to keep blaming your parents. And of course, blaming your parents isn't what's important. What's important is understanding the relationship between what they did and what you're doing. So it's still cute. Always Falling is the next song. It's the only song I don't really like, maybe because it's sandwiched in between Me and Ennui Are Friends, and then the next track, Full Mood, which are two of my favorite tracks on the album. It's a little bit of a repetitive thing about being a sucker for someone who's aloof. I feel like she maybe hit the theme a little too often of being attracted to broken losers. A little bit, because when you have an album this consistent, it can be samey. This one track, I would say, if you took this track out, the whole album would be much better. But what do I know? I'm just some guy in his basement. And then the next track is maybe my favorite song, but maybe it's my favorite song because it stands out, because it's so different. It's called Full Mood, and it's a love song. Love song. It's a lust song. It's the beginning stages of lust, maybe love song. Let's put it there. Kind of a brokenish love song, but it's sweet, right? It's this very sweet moment where she says, I want to color in the world for you because you've got me in a full mood. And it's nice because, you know, her voice like doesn't go too crazy here. There's all these nice little sort of semi-erotic, just sweet details. Thinking of your sweat reds my blues. That's a nice idea. And just this image of being in a full mood. She appears to be describing being horny as a full mood, but I don't think it's just horniness. There's something about it. There's something about this expression, which I don't understand. I never will understand because I'm not a woman. But there's something about this that seems to be a very good description of a certain kind of female desire or passion. Something about this term, full mood, but I don't know. I can't know. All I know about women's sexuality is what women tell me either through music, movies, or conversation. But there's something about this term, full mood, which really seems to just be right. And it's very sweet and very nice. The happiness of a kind of mutual lust. Now, knowing the rest of the album, this guy's a loser and he's going to break her heart and it's going to be terrible. But we're not at that point yet. For one point in this album, we can just be happy that she's here getting drunk with some guy who she's very much into. One of the best usage of the F word in all of music history. She sings it like she was all over. It's like 10 syllables. It's very funny. Next track, Let's Go Home. Very heavy on the chair creaks. Let's go home. A home still means something. We're back into Bleak Town, but an oddly happy chorus that starts off with a line, have you ever had a day where you felt beautiful? I feel beautiful today. I didn't do my hair like I normally do. I'm not wearing gel, but I'm still happy about it. Being in my 40s, not bald. It's nice. I feel beautiful. I feel oh. Then it keeps going, ends with everyone keeps calling, I'm not all right. So it starts off with I feel beautiful, but then it ends with her saying that people are calling her, presumably after a suicide attempt, saying I'm not all right. And again, this is the kind of person that you do want to call and see if she's all right. It's interesting, she talks to Baby a lot in this song, and me and Ennui are friends, Baby. I wonder who the Baby is. Is the Baby this person who broke up with her? Is the Baby the listener? Is Baby just the general existence? Who is Baby that she's talking to when she says me and Ennui are friends, Baby? Is it just like a little punctuation point? I don't know. Next track is called Don't Like You Talking, which is finished in the song Two Other Girls. This is cool because she does something to spice it up a little bit. She doubles the voice. What's nice is that it's not always paired up. It's paired up most of the time, but then sometimes one syllable will go a little bit longer on one of the voices. I guess that makes it sound Elliott Smith-ish. I don't know. But it's nice because it's still very raw despite this form of order. What's cool is that this has very short sentences, like short phrasing. It's almost like a conversation that becomes almost like a chant. And she's just jealous of this girl, and this girl who's hotter than her, and this girl who he likes her photographs on Instagram or whatever, and doesn't like hers. It's an interesting thing that follows pretty well with the other song that was about being a booty call. You turn me out, I turn you on. One day we'll be old, one day we'll be gone. Just this feeling of being useless and used at the same time. It's a nice song about being kind of petty and jealous. I was much better at being young than you are. Okay. I am going to take a sip of my water from my Joe Cool mug. Did I really say that thing about feeling beautiful? I immediately regretted saying that, but that's why I don't have a script. So I was much better at being young than you are. What's nice about it, on one hand, it is the ultimate middle-age banger. Like, she is able to pin down the feeling that many people have in middle age when they see young people and young people don't know what they're doing, you know? Like, you know, I see my son and he's talking to his friends on the Discord and he's talking to his headphones and all that. And I'm like, you could have them over in the basement, like jamming and like playing video games in person and like driving around to like, I don't know, Stop and Shops or, you know, like you could be doing all the dumb stuff I did because obviously I knew what to do when I was younger. But it's not just that. It's not just the feeling of thinking that young people don't know what they're doing, which is what you feel when you hit middle age. It's the way she describes her feeling of power when she was young. And I really relate to this, especially the brief period of time that I lived in Marseille when I was the closest I ever came to sort of spiraling out of control and disappearing off existence. Immediately following the previously mentioned fried chicken incident. I said that too. Well, hey, good thing this isn't on the Haley Williams video. You know, I don't care. You know what? No, hey, this is intentional. I'm being confessional because this music is confessional. It wasn't intentional, but I'm going to retroactively make it seem like it was. The way she describes her youth. With a book under my arm, baby, there's the baby again. With a book under my arm, baby, polished, concentrated charm, and I knew everyone in town, baby. Around me, in my mind, the whole city spun. This feeling of having the book, sort of the sense of the sort of calculated intelligence being communicated, polished, concentrated charm, and around me, the whole city spun. And that's the way you feel when you're young, and you're beautiful, and you're intelligent, and you're just the king or the queen of the universe, right? But what I love was the three words in there, in my mind. Around me, in my mind, the whole city spun. That confidence is always illusory. The whole world doesn't care about you. I did not have the theme from Saturday Night Fever or the theme from Shaft playing behind me when I'd walk down the Canebière in Marseille. I thought I did. It was playing in my head, but it wasn't playing around in reality. And she's able to just sort of like describe that feeling, that heady feeling of being young, seducing men, and just the sort of sadness at its loss, while at the same time poking fun at it in the first place. When you're sleeping, nice kind of boxy chords on the piano, almost like Heart and Soul. The lyrics even sort of make reference to Round and Round. It has kind of a circular feeling, a very catchy chorus. I would love this song with the rest of the band. I think that'd be nice. I know love when I see it. I don't need you to believe it. I choose torture over dreaming. I crawl into your mind when you're sleeping. I guess that means that the torture is inside of his mind. She's a very good lyricist. She really is. I think that her confessional nature covers it up or makes it harder to see, because when she's just talking about how she feels, it's sort of like, well, how good can it possibly be? But I choose torture over dreaming. I crawl into your mind while you're sleeping. Those are as good lyrics as you'll ever find. The album ends with Will the Lord Hold My Hand? The best voice on the album. If you're actually into how she uses her voice, this is the best example of that. On each of these 3 albums, she's had a call to God. Not Allowed in Heaven, Just Came to Pray from the last 2 albums, and then this one, and this kind of permanent sense of looking for resolution or looking for salvation. So there you go. There's my review of the new Sarah Mary Chadwick album. I pronounced her name correctly every single time, although there is an outtake at the beginning where I say Sarah Mary Chadwick, which is what I end up calling her. So there you go. There's my review. I very much suggest you listen to her. You sort of get into her world, because she's making things that other people are not making and have not made, and they are definitely worth your time. And it's funny because when I listened to it for the first time after the song, there's one point. There's one point after she said that it's not cute at 37. She said at the end of the song, "I wish I never put myself in all this danger." And I don't know why, but it made me cry, this line. "I wish I never put myself in all this danger." And I don't know why it was this line. Of all the sad things in this album, like why that? And I think it's because I related it most to young me. Back in Marseille, 21 years old, post-fried chicken. Making a lot of bad decisions, going to a lot of bad places, and just feeling like I wasn't really in control. You know, like feeling like, you know, like, just like feeling like I couldn't do it. And I just kept putting myself in this danger and in this bad situation. So when I listened to the album for the first time, I stopped. I started watching videos about Super Mario Maker on YouTube. I took a day off. And then I went back and I re-listened to the whole thing again, and I could do it. But an album that's able to take you off guard like that, I wish I never put myself in all this danger. It makes you want to help her, but hopefully help yourself as well. Okay, I'm done. I'm even getting teary now. What can I do? All right, well, for Joe Cool and for all the people of the world, there's the camera.